Good evening, Midwest Star Wars fanatics, and how's everybody doing tonight? We got a special show tonight. We got a few guests here. We're having some technical difficulties. One of the guests, hopefully, we'll get Brian here soon. But again, I'm Greg Evans, and Star Wars Nerd 574, my co-host Travis, and then we got a special guest tonight. Joe Corroney is here. Some of you guys may know this guy a little bit, especially if you go to Celebration, some other cons around. You might see some of his artwork. Pretty well known for some of his amazing pieces. Welcome, Joe. We're glad to have you here.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And also, again, want to say a special thank you to TRG Toys and Collectibles for sponsoring us. Make sure you go to trgtoys.com to check out their amazing Marvel, Star Wars, you name it, he has it. So without any more waiting, I just want to welcome everybody watching tonight. If you are watching, make sure to leave comments either on Facebook, YouTube, or if StreamYard, you have permission on there, so we can have you chime in, and we'd love to hear your questions as we're going. But the first thing we're going to talk about tonight is obviously the last episode of the Book of Boba Fett. So, Travis and Joe, we had a very interesting season, a lot of ups and downs. It kind of, I don't know, Joe, since we have you new on the, like, was this the way you were expecting the season to go for the Book of Boba Fett?
I mean, with Star Wars, you kind of have to learn to expect anything, I think. So yeah, I mean, lots of surprises for sure. But in terms of like where the story was going to go and how it took like a really divergent left turn for Dave Filoni's episode, which was that was episode 6 or 5? Sorry, 6. Yes, episode 6. So, or even the one before that Bryce Dallas Howard's episode, actually, yeah. Episode 5. So it definitely took that left turn. But I mean, overall, I'm pleased with it. There were some uneven things, but if we can get into that too, like specifically. But as a Boba Fett fan, I know you are too, Greg. I mean, overall, I was happy. I was just happy to have Star Wars back and to see some new content. Yeah. It's been a long time.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, for so as fans, and I know, Travis, he's the Cobb Vanth fan in the group here.
Oh, nice.
But for us Boba Fett fans, I mean, it's been 40 years in the making for us. When from the first time we saw him in the the holiday special, obviously, and then from Empire Strikes Back, and then we finally get the story. And obviously we just wrapped up the season, which it's kind of sucks. I really thought we could get one more episode. I wish they could have squeezed in a number 8. But
I know, right? Yeah.
Let's dive right into that. So obviously, we start off, Mando, Fennec, and Boba Fett kind of, planning on this attack. They're expecting everybody from Freetown to come help them out, and they're little bit did they know yet that that wasn't going to happen. And that's where we kind of got our first first reappearance of Cad Bane and Boba Fett. I mean, what was that like, Travis and Joe, for you guys, and you out there listening and watching as well, when you saw that, when you got Cad Bane and Boba Fett getting ready to square off?
I'll let you go, Travis. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think, for me, it was a cool scene. I've always been a Cad Bane fan since the Clone Wars. Anybody that's heard me talk about the things I enjoy, I go full all in on the Western sort of aspects when it comes to Star Wars. So, Cobb Vanth, Mandalorian, Boba Fett from the original movies and stuff, always had that sort of gunslinger, sort of Western sort of character. So I was always a big fan of Cad Bane. Greg and I, we talked about this several weeks ago. We were kind of wondering, hey, is Cad Bane going to show up? And we thought it'd be really cool if he does. How well is he going to translate over to live action from animated? And I think they did a really great job with the character. I mean, getting the same voice, so the same actor to do the voice, I think was, made it immensely better than it possibly could have been if they got somebody else to kind of try to pretend to be the Cad Bane voice, but they got the voice, which is iconic. And I think they did a really good job with the character too. Obviously we'll get much deeper into what happens with him as the episode went on, but his sort of reappearance, eventual standoff with Fett, his sort of interaction, I think we'll chat about too, with the Pikes and kind of what that set up for the overall, what we'd seen previously in the season as well.
Yeah, I was happy they brought Corey Burton back, the voice of Cad Bane, because like you, Travis, I'm a pretty big Cad Bane guy as well, like going back all the way to his first appearance in the Clone Wars series. So he's over the years, he's become my second favorite bounty hunter character. So whenever he does, like when he popped up in Bad Batch, I was like, oh, that's awesome. I'm glad he's still, around in that timeline. And then he shows up now even later, and 30 some years later, almost in Book of Boba Fett. So that was awesome. And I like you, I thought they did a pretty great job of bringing him into live action with his appearance. And he does fit so well into the whole Mandalorian theme and Book of Boba Fett, which is spun off from that. It's very Western influenced. I mean, Star Wars always was Western, and all kinds of other film genres and cultures all mashed together is what really makes Star Wars what it is. But the fact that Mandalorian and Book of Boba Fett really leaned heavily into the Western motif.
Yeah.
I mean, having Cad Bane, bringing him in for that is just perfect. So I think back when we saw those boots in season, was it the end of season 1 when we all, we weren't sure if that was Boba Fett or if it was Cad Bane, because they both have those spurs on their boots. And I was really hoping it was Cad Bane that found Fennec, but ended up being Boba, which was even better. But then I was like, well, we're not going to get Cad Bane. So when he showed up, it just blew my mind. So.
Yeah. And we have a couple here. Patricia, thank you for tuning in and watching. And we also have a couple comments here. I think episode 5 was probably my favorite of all. And I agree with this one with the Cad Bane. I couldn't help think, where's the toothpick?
Yeah.
But, I mean, that definitely was the missing part from Cad Bane. But just from the whole diabolical kind of scheming and stuff, knowing how Cad Bane used to help Boba Fett, and then how obviously, Celebration, I believe it was Florida, when we got the unfinished Clone Wars scene where they squared off. It gave you that moment would have been probably the moment that Boba Fett became, a well-respected bounty hunter. He took out, the quickest gun. And then obviously that's kind of disappeared. But the Bad Patch kind of reconfirmed that happened. But then what I really love is about how they show how Cad Bane has no alliance with anybody. As soon as he talked with the Pikes, and all of a sudden, he found out that the Pikes were the one that, killed the Tusken Raiders. And he straight up just went with that. He didn't even care about anything else when he had that face off with Boba Fett. I mean, there, you kind of saw Boba Fett questioning what he was doing at that point.
Right. Yeah, I think he wanted to use that knowledge to play head games with Boba. So that was his whole why he was surprised to learn that, and then how quickly he knew how he could, like right away you see his gears turning, and he wanted to use that knowledge against him. So I thought that was pretty cool. He did that in the showdown.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and we got Brian Miller has joined us. Hey, Brian, welcome.
Hey, there he is.
Glad to have you here.
We are better late than never.
It's all right, man. Right now, we're just talking about the beginning of the Book of Boba Fett. Cad Bane kind of squaring off with Boba Fett in that moment where it was just like, Boba Fett trying to just hold himself to not just square off right there. Obviously.
Well, I thought it was great to see Fennec Shand kind of be like the little angel on his shoulder and be like, not now. Wait until we can do it on our own terms. And that was kind of a really cool moment because she's kind of wavered too about who's her allegiances to. Is it just to her? Yeah. Is it just to Boba? And then we kind of get in that moment, she has Boba's best interest at hand. She's there for the fight with him.
Yeah, she's the one. Want me to kill him now? The whole, and then all of a sudden, here we go. We got, she's now playing the, hey, just wait. We'll get him on our terms. Which it just. The way the story was going, I didn't know what to expect going from there. And then obviously we still had, our little green buddy, Baby Yoda, Grogu, whatever you want to call him, we're still waiting on that decision, which obviously we pretty much all knew what that decision was going to be.
Right.
But then we kind of cut away for a little bit, and then we get this little guy popping out of the X-Wing with R2, which this is something I need to ask all you and everybody who's watching tonight. Luke Skywalker, did they kind of turn him into a jerk? Like I don't know. Like it feels like just the way he went with the training, and then hey, I'm just going to send Grogu on his own with R2 going back.
I mean,
what are your thoughts on that?
I almost feel like, because he didn't bring back Grogu personally, he didn't deliver him back to the Mandalorian. He just sends him back to Grogu to kind of like, I mean, the Tatooine of Mos Eisley of all places, and how dangerous that is. So it was a little like, it felt like he had just brushed him off in a way, but he did send R2. I mean, I kind of, I get it.
If you're gonna send anybody, I mean, I almost feel safer riding with R2, the hero of the entire Star Wars universe, compared to anybody else. I mean, I think in a way it was almost, I don't want to say plot armor, but it was in a way like, okay, if Luke Skywalker was there to hand deliver Grogu to Mandalorian, then Luke Skywalker's just going to take care of all the Pikes, and then there's no shootout, nothing of that stuff happens, because Luke's got, Luke's there to save the day again. We talked about this last week. I really didn't expect the decision to be made and then also shown in this episode. I thought they would probably save that as almost like a mini cliffhanger for season 3 of The Mandalorian. So I was, as soon as I saw the X-Wing, I was like, really? Is that Luke showing back up? Or is that one of the New Republic guys that they, he ran into a couple episodes ago and is out test flying the Starfighter? But yes, I was kind of surprised they went ahead and just answered the question like, nope, it's taken care of. Grogu's back. Who's only he missed zero Mandalorian episodos.
Right.
So he's back before anything else aired.
We got here on the comments.
Go ahead.
Grogu and Mando both were cast off by their peoples and families. Mando didn't really have a choice because his family was getting attacked by droids. But at the same point, he was cast off by the other Mandalorians, which we saw the episode before. And then Patricia here on YouTube, hopefully thinking that we'll see more of Luke and reasoning behind his decision that he sent Grogu, knowing over that Mando is in need of help, which Travis brought up a good point, and we'll get back to that if I remember it later. We kind of have the same kind of irony as The Empire Strikes Back there, where it was Grogu sensing that Mando needed his help at the time, which I thought, it is a very interesting look at that moment there. But yeah, just, and Brian and Travis, you guys just, and most people know how I feel. I Baby Yoda Grogu, he's okay, but I wanted to see more Mandalorian at that time when he first got introduced. But I just wasn't expecting him that much in this episode. I mean, what did you think about that?
I was glad to see him there, and I kind of think from the moment we saw Mando's starship being put back together, his little hot rodded, Nubian fighter there with the bubble where the astromech should be, kind of like, well, that's going to be Grogu's spot no matter what. I mean, that was some pretty heavy foreshadowing. So, I mean, we all knew it sort of had to happen. It's how fast they were going to make it happen and in what way.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think Disney, Lucasfilm, they know what the fans want. And I think because Mandalorian season 3 is still a ways off. I mean, what is it? Like early 2023, I think is what they said, as far as, and that's a long wait, especially in streaming time, from in between seasons. So I think they saw Book of Boba as an opportunity to incorporate Mando and Grogu into the story and to keep those characters fresh in the fans' minds and stuff. So it just made sense, I think, for them to go, well, let's make Grogu and Mando part of Boba's story. Now, I would have much rather seen Boba and Fanatics sort of take care of everything. I mean, I love Mando. I love Grogu. I was very happy to see them in the story, but I don't know how when Book of Boba Fett takes that left turn in episode 5 and there's no Boba, and then there's no Boba in episode 6 either. It's like they spent all this time on the backstory. It would have been nice, I think, if they had developed their A story, their main plot with the Pikes and the Syndicate, because then by the time we get to the finale, we probably would have been even more invested, because it's only 7 episodes. Like, it would have been cool with 8 episodes, but there's only it's a tricky balance. They want to bring Grogu and Mando back in, but it's the Book of Boba Fett. But
and I think, Greg, you had the earlier comment when we first started. It's like, wish there was more episodes, and there was. I feel like there was. I personally wasn't ready for the Tusken arc to end. Like, it was really building up. I really enjoyed the that sort of warrior character that they had on the train job, and I was like, okay, I want more of this. And I think it was almost like that next episode, it was like, nope, boom, it's done. We're done with flashbacks. And I mean, I get it, they were crunched for time. They had to fit everything in that they wanted to. It'd been great to have seen more of that, though, and kind of further develop that story arc and kind of show, here's how Boba is so much different than out for himself bounty hunter that we knew back in Empire.
Well, and then there was just there was so much stories going on with this series. I mean, this really just could have been the book of New Star Wars is what it could have been called, because there was just so much going on. And then even with the Pikes, and we'll get into that ending here in a little bit, but the Pikes already had everything set up. They knew they were going to ambush, Cad Bane was there, and then we get into that ambush where it looked like, our mods were going to get destroyed, the Gamorrean guards, like, all that was just devastating. But we got that, here's the sad picture of the guards getting ready to go over the cliff.
Poor piggies.
I know it's rough, everybody, but it happened. But it looked like that was it for Boba Fett, and obviously, the Mandalorian. Mando didn't even know Baby Yoda. I'm going to call Baby Yoda. Sorry, everybody, but didn't know that he was even there yet. So here we go. We got this battle going on, and at this point, what did you guys think was going to happen at this point? Like, this was kind of an interesting point in this whole episode.
Yeah, I'll let Brian and Joe here jump in on that one if they want to start things off with what their expectations were.
For me, I think it's a weird thing. Like, at once, that it was a great episode, and it was a great turning point to see. We're okay to talk about the Rancor now, right? Yeah. It was really cool to see that turn. But at the same point, I also wouldn't have been surprised if they hadn't broke that up into like 2 episodes and given us like an episode 7 with like a cliffhanger of who's going to die, who's going to live, and then do an episode 8 where we wrap everything up. So it definitely felt like super compressed. Like, it was almost like, a whole movie's worth of content, like, squashed down into 1 episode, because whether it's the duel with Cad Bane or the all the scenes with the Rancor, that felt like it could have, had more life or more breathing room to like expand a little bit farther.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It definitely went from, okay, Black Chrysanthemum's getting taken out, mod gangs under fire, Gamorreans are getting beat up, everybody's turning on everybody. Oh, by the way, this it was just like bang, bang, bang. There was really no time to, like, to your point, to let it breathe and think like, oh man, things are really taking a bad turn here. Because within like 3 minutes, it's like, okay, we're on to the next big battle with Mando and Boba Fett, having their street gunfights and things of that nature.
But how badass was the scene with the Rancor? It was like the perfect mix of like King Kong and big kaiju battle, and it was just like so badass.
So what the first thing that, like, during this fight, I thought the first thing that came up to my mind was Star Wars Rebels. When they set up Governor Price and that kind of battle where it was just kind of going on, and I was kind of waiting for that moment. Like, okay, so Boba Fett's got something in his pocket. There's a reason why we haven't seen him for the last 2 episodes. I was waiting for that moment, but that moment didn't come, which surprised me, because for people who've watched this, and I've talked about this on other episodes, like, they had the perfect opportunity with bringing Dengar back especially with the mods, because how he modified himself when we saw him again in the Rise of Skywalker. They had the perfect opportunity to bring him into that story. I mean, but we already know with the comics that Forloom and Zuckuss didn't make it because Boba Fett, beheaded both of them.
Right.
But I was waiting for that moment there. That didn't happen. I think that was one of my, and I love the series, but I think that was one of my disappointments. Was like there was so much going on that we forgot about some of the other stuff. I think that could have happened, and it just.
I think with like the Trandoshans being in there, I thought for sure we were going to get some Bosk action, like he might show up. But I mean, if those characters serve the story, otherwise they're kind of just cameos, I think, and which are fine. It would have been cool to. I wouldn't have complained if we had gotten the new Dengar, Rothgar Deng in there, or we had gotten Bosk, or and spoilers for the people who haven't read the comics, but the Forlom or 4LOM and Zuckuss get taken out by Boba after Empire in the new Marvel continuity, the new Star Wars continuity in the Marvel comics. But it would have been cool to see some of those classic bounty hunter characters, but with Cad Bane, it did serve the plot. Yeah. And it was a cameo, but it actually mattered to the story a bit. I would have liked to seen that buildup of Cad Bane a little bit more before that final duel. I mean, we do get him with Cobb Vanth, which was totally awesome. I love that scene.
Heck yeah.
I just thought it felt a little more fan service as opposed to actual narrative, integrity. I think if they had utilized Cad a little bit more, I think it would have been even better. But and that's a nitpick. But
I just love the Western feel from that. It took us back to the spaghetti Westerns, and I know, like I said, Travis was devastated because Cobb Vanth is his dude. But it was. But Travis, you might be getting some more of him later on. And then actually, there's a comment that just popped up a little bit ago here. I want to show everybody here. What did the Book of Boba Fett set up for the future of Star Wars? Well, I mean, it's kind of set up the stuff that's coming. I mean, we obviously know, Ahsoka series is coming. We have, the Mandalorian season 3, and so we already know that Grogu and Mando are going to be teaming up for season 3. The Ahsoka series, we have some Ahsoka. We know now that she's talked to Luke. So, what is she building up? And we still have Ezra out there. We have so much out there. So we'll get into that a little bit. I know it's so easy to go off topic here. But I mean, Quinn, I really feel that, the Book of Boba Fett has set up a lot for us. And I mean, do you guys agree? Or?
Yeah, definitely Mando season 3 for sure. It's set up and and definitely Boba and Mos Espa. I mean, I think we'll see those characters return in other series too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, if we do like in Obi-Wan, they can even have things that we're seeing happening in, on Tatooine now, flashback to the past in a way, or connect with little threads or something,
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we made the comment a few episodes back when Black Chrysanthemum shows up and sort of his ties back in the comics with Obi-Wan. Well, there's a good chance potentially that plays out, how he got the scar on his face. That's again, I mean, they've been doing a great job on things you see here tie back to this series. And I mean, I think really not to use it in a negative term, but I think Book of Boba Fett was really a bridge to say, okay, we're now moving from season 2 of Mandalorian and moving forward into season 3. We're introducing some characters. We're bringing some new ones in, bringing some back like Cobb Vanth. So I think it's really helping just kind of build that sort of Mando verse of all the characters. And it's okay. We can have things intertwine. Ahsoka can show up in Book of Boba Fett. So that means who knows who's going to show up in the Ahsoka series or in other things upcoming as well.
I don't know if you guys can all see that comment right there, but Jeff, I mean, honestly, I'm surprised we didn't see that in this series. I don't know about you guys, but that actually shocked me that we didn't see Alpha in this series. I mean, everything was set up for it again, but again, there was so much going on. It was probably hard to fit, everybody in there, but I mean, so much there. So during this fight, we also saw probably some of the coolest droids, we ever saw in Star Wars. I don't know about you guys, but these guys were pretty badass. I don't know if I can say that on YouTube. Sorry.
Sorry, Brian already said it once.
But I mean, these guys were, battle droids on steroids. I mean, these things weren't going down for anything. I mean,
They're like
what
mega
did you guys
droid
think when you
decas,
start
yeah.
coming around the corner?
Yeah, they got that scorpion look. They were so cool, and I mean, it just seemed like nothing could phase them for the longest time.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
pretty great when the Rancor ended up taking them out, but Grogu helped for sure.
Yeah, and I thought that was a cool thing. 'Cause you always wonder, like, okay, what are they going to do to kind of raise the stakes? Because we know, certain characters aren't going to get killed, but you still want to make it kind of high stakes and something kind of dangerous from to deal with. And you've got, Mandalorian, you've got it's the Freetown people showed up, all these sorts of things. Like, okay, what's going to be a big enough deterrent? A bunch of Pike, gunmen aren't really going to be much of a threat for Boba Fett and the Mandalorian. Well, big giant droids with force shields, that could be a problem because they can't actually shoot them with anything.
That's right. The
Right.
Pikes are like, we have prequel tech, people. Come at us.
Yeah, those are Doug Chiang designs from episode 1 concept art, the Scorpion
yeah.
droid. So it was cool that they were able to dip back into that well, because Lucasfilm never wastes anything. Like, I mean, it's like they have so much art to draw from that well. They always go back to it. So to see that art from the art of episode 1 or episode 2, I think it's episode 1, to see that art come to life in this was a huge surprise. Immediately I was like, okay, that's awesome to see those droids.
Yeah, it's all the little throwbacks through this series. I mean, everything that we've had so far has just been unreal. From, the spiders in the Mandalorian to
the Ralph McQuarrie spiders,
sitting at the bar and like just everywhere in Tatooine, like Beggar's Canyon, it's just like there's so much little things that just got you so excited as a Star Wars fan. And I think that's what, I hate to talk about like toxic fans and stuff, but I think that's what a lot of people forgot about, was just how great and all the little things that are there to help you remember, the Star Wars from the past, and everything that we've been through on this. And that's what's been great about these episodes. So obviously we've talked about our big bad friend, the Rancor. Maybe Hasbro will come up with something here soon for this.
I think they already tried, but they were.
Was that too soon?
Yeah,
I'd say they throw in the Danny Trejo Rancor Black Series figure. That thing will we'll fund this time around.
Throw a little saddle for Boba on that thing. It would have sold like hotcakes. But
you're probably right on that. So Boba goes and gets like, and it's kind of surprising because I kind of laugh because I see two ways of this. Some people's like, well, why didn't he just grab Slave One? Or why did he grab the Rancor? Well, obviously we wanted the Rancor. I mean, that was already set up. We knew he was going to ride that thing. But again, I know Brian was pretty excited about it. I could see when he was talking about the Rancor. I mean, how awesome was it to see this Rancor out of a cage and just tearing everything up?
Yeah, it was pretty. I loved it. I mean, we kind of knew it was coming a few episodes earlier when he's talking to Danny Trejo, like, "Oh, teach me how," or you're like, "I want to learn to ride this," and so yeah, we kind of all knew as fans, like, okay, it's like Chekhov's gun, like if you show it, you got to use it at some point in the story. So we knew the Rancor would be coming back, but still, I think it was. I knew it was coming, but when it did show up, it was still very impressive. So even though I wasn't totally shocked, I was still like, whoa, this is insane.
Yeah, it was still an exciting moment. I mean, we had, the Rancor, versus the Scorpion droids, and it was this very sort of like Godzilla versus like Mecha Godzilla or Kaiju kind of moment.
That's totally Filoni, by the way. He's a huge Godzilla guy. So.
Yeah, and you're like, yeah, go get him, Rancor. And then, when he climbs up the tower there, I mean, obviously it's a nod to King Kong, but it doesn't matter because it's still so freaking cool,
Yeah.
And I also like that they threw in like Mando trying to interact with the Rancor, and the Rancor is not having it, to just show you that only Boba Fett had like the bonded, connection with the Rancor. So that was kind of cool too.
Yeah. And it's also, again, like, anyone on social media, obviously you got everybody, you got some people that weren't too happy with the scene. How can somebody ride a Rancor? And that actually was set up for us in the Bad Batch, if everyone remembers, when Omega actually got on, the small Rancor and stuff. So like all the stuff is connected, and people like seem to miss some of the little things to show that why this was set up on there. But yeah, it was just neat to see that Rancor just let loose and just tear. Now I did notice this was some I don't know if you guys noticed this during it, but I'm pretty sure that one of the robots, when he was tearing it apart, his arm kept getting back on. So a little production error there, but I did notice that a few times. I actually had a friend point that out, and then I watched it, and then I noticed that his arm kept coming back. But yeah,
the Rancor's like, I thought I took that arm already.
Exactly. So how's he still using it on me? So then we get into probably one of another missed opportunity. And what I mean by missed opportunity, this is where I wish we would have, out of all the flashbacks, this is where I wish we would have had a flashback. And we talked about this a little bit earlier, and that's the Cad Bane Boba Fett face off.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, they're calling each other old. They've been around for a long time. I think Cad Bane was now like 70 something at this time frame,
right.
But he still is a pretty quick draw, which we saw there. But I mean, and I don't know about you guys, but how awesome would it have been, even if it wasn't the scene that we saw at Celebration in Florida,
right?
Just to have kind of a flashback of maybe Fett's helmet like dropping in the sand, and then Cad Bane's hat like falling in the sand when they squared off.
Yeah, I mean that would have been cool. Actually, anything, because I think for us Star Wars fans, we understood the connection because we watched the Clone Wars. We know their history, even the deleted cut scene that never made it to air. We all know about that. But however, in service to the actual story that they're presenting in Book of Boba Fett, especially to Star Wars fans who may not be as hardcore as we are, who don't know the Clone Wars history of Cad Bane and Boba, I think this narrative, this story of Book of Boba needed, and that any flashback would have helped to kind of set up, because they're telling us everything, but they're not really showing it to us. So we have to kind of, I think the fans are fine because we bring that baggage with us. But in terms of just the self-contained story of Book of Boba Fett, it's like, well, we need a little more between Cad Bane and Boba Fett to make that dual payoff.
Yeah. So, I mean, because there's, sorry, it's like, because based on the way they're talking, there's obviously some history there, back to even the previous episode when he said, Boba Fett's scum that worked for the Empire and things like that. Not to mention, Cad Bane kidnapped children for people back in the Clone Wars, but hey, I guess Boba's bad for working for the Empire. So you can, and it's easy, like you said, for us as fans, we understand the context and the history. Sometimes I try to take a step back and think about it from, hey, if I'm just sort of new to Star Wars and I just watched the movies and I just watched the series on Disney Plus, I've never gone back into the cartoons. Okay, who's this guy? Why do they hate each other so much? And the show a lot of times goes out of its way, like an exposition, to like explain everything that's going on and show it. But in this case, this was one thing that kind of just like, I'm just going to really scratch the surface and then not tell the whole story. So I don't know if there's going to be more to come. They'll come back to this somehow in the future, and they've left it a little open-ended, knowing we'll explain it later. Because I mean, to your point, Joe, there definitely was so much more they could have explored.
What it reminds me of is the scene from A New Hope when we get Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, and it's like, when we last met, I was a learner, but now I'm the master. And it's like, we get all that backstory of their relationship just in a little bit of dialogue, just little bits here and there, but we don't, but see, now we're kind of coming at it from the other way, because we have seen some of that backstory as fans already prior to this. So we kind of want a little bit more from Book of Boba. But then if we remove ourselves and go, you know what, maybe as a fan, if I hadn't seen Clone Wars and I was watching Book of Boba, I would be like, wow, what is the backstory between these two characters?
That's true.
That's one way. I mean, maybe other fans, other people see it that way. They're not as like overly concerned, but I just think from a dramatic standpoint, if they had utilized Cad Bane just a little bit more, whether they showed us flashbacks or not, I think that final duel would have been even more impactful.
Yeah, it's like raising the stakes. Like if we go to like Mandalorian, they took such an effort to show us that Moff Gideon was like a real threat. Like Not a little
Right.
bit of threat, like super evil. He, out to be, really be a big bad guy in the series. And again, if you're a casual fan and you're watching this, you don't know what level of threat Cad Bane is. You're like, oh, okay, it's a gunslinger type character. That part's clear. But if you don't know the backstory, you're like, well, is this somebody that Boba Fett can easily dispatch or not easily dispatch? Or
Right.
is Boba Fett afraid or not afraid? Like there's just, there's a few context clues, but maybe not enough for the person who's, just discovering all this through Disney Plus to know, like, oh, well, this guy's dead. Who cares?
Yeah, I think you nailed it. Exactly. Like, I think if they had just built the threat of him up, and maybe that's a problem with the narrative in Book of Boba Fett, because they spend so much time on the flashbacks, on the back to the future, back to the past flashbacks. I had to say it. I just back to the future. Every time I say it, I crack myself up. But they spend a lot of time, which is great. But then the current storyline, it kind of feels it just feels a little more, I don't know, maybe, I don't know if it's undercooked or what, but I think if they had introduced Cad sooner.
Not undercooked, just a little rushed.
Yeah.
And,
So
and that has been the big theme of comments right now, especially the series is rushed. There was a lot going on, rushed, and, more Cad, but it was rushed.
It's like, it's like, in their production meetings and storyboard sessions, they're like, okay, we've got a list of things we want to have happen. We need the Tuskens, we need Black Chrysanthemum, we need Cad Bane, we need the Rancor riding, and they started checking off. And they got through like the first 5 episodes. They're like, oh man, we still have like half our checklist to get through. We're gonna have to try to cram these last couple things in, because this series could have easily 1-2 more episodes. Maybe introduce Cad Bane an episode or 2 early. Maybe he was the one that actually the Pikes hired to go and kill the Tuskens, and then then that could have been easily another string to pull on and make Boba Fett even more, show that kind of antagonistic side of it.
And with everybody talking about Cad Bane, and more series and stuff, and what could we got more, the real question is he really dead?
That is the big question.
I want to say no, but I'm a big Cad Bane fan. I don't want him to be dead. He's got the
beeping. Yeah. I don't remember it blinking, like visually blinking at all. And there was definitely no audio tone. So almost similar to at the very beginning, we were talking, Joe, the Spurs sound, just small little cues that make you think like, okay, I'm just waiting for, a scene later on where Toto 360 is going to show up and
I was going to say, Toto
here to help you, sir. And then, drag him off to safety.
Yeah, he's such a cool character, and he has, especially bringing Corey Burton back to voice Cad. He's got such menace, and he translates so well to live action. So it's like, it's kind of like when they realized they killed Fennec, and they're like, oh crap, we got to bring her back because she's such a cool character. We can't kill her. I feel like that's what they're doing here. Like, oh, maybe we shouldn't have had him get stabbed in the chest, but then again, maybe they already have plans for him. So.
For all we know, that's on a Duros. That's nothing. That's just a big empty cavity. I don't know Duros anatomy.
So we got a comment on one of my main pages here. I can't put it up on the screen. I wish I could, but this is kind of what we were talking about here. I'm a longtime fan, but haven't watched the Clone Wars. I've had a few-year hiatus where I didn't watch anything besides the movies. Trying to catch up. I had no idea who Cad Bane was, and could have used additional flashback, like you said. That was the only thing I wasn't familiar with, and that's somebody who, didn't know who Cad Bane was. So yeah, I agree, Rucker. It was something that I wish that flashback could have been there. And like for us diehards that know it, we kind of put that together in our head, but at the same time, it's like, I just wish there was a little bit more.
Yeah. It's a tricky balance. Yeah.
So we kind of pop back over to our buddy, the Rancor. Let's jump over to him, because Cad Bane, we're still undecided what's going to happen with him. And so the Rancor is tearing up everything. Justin Lee, I was saving your comment. I haven't said this yet. Justin Lee made a comment, was a laser can dent a Beskar helmet, but how come a Rancor tooth can't? I thought that was kind of interesting. But we're going to talk a little bit about the Rancor and the kind of the moment, like everything ties together. Like I said earlier, it's just there's always something here. So we had the most Star Wars Rebel moment again. So Baby Yoda, obviously, he's been trained very well. he knows what he's doing. I mean, we saw that when he used the force healing, and then we all of a sudden get the Ezra moment that like Kanan and other people have never seen before. And then all of a sudden we see this with Rey, Ezra, and now Grogu, and that's putting the Rancor to sleep.
We did see it in Attack of the Clones with Anakin using it to soothe the Reek in the Aegean Ocean arena. So, like, I mean, it is a force power that hasn't been. I don't think it's as popular, though. We have seen it in more recent Star Wars media with, like you said, Rey and Grogu having done it now. So, yeah, I love that part. That was a really great. It's a really cool dynamic to see such a giant Star Wars monster in the littlest Star Wars.
It's like the mouse and the lion kind of situation. Yeah.
Exactly. He just curls up and just takes a nap with them and stuff. It's just, but it to me, like, that kind of was like kind of the opening again, and this is what kind of threw me off as we're getting close to the end of this episode. Was, we knew the Pike Syndicate was there, and we obviously thought somebody was funding or helping this Pike Syndicate, which every theory, every rumor out there was way off, because we didn't get Crimson Dawn, we didn't get all that, but that scene just kind of really set me up for Ahsoka. The reason why is because I started thinking, Ezra and Thrawn. I mean, Ezra obviously tempted the beast, or calmed the beast, to help him take Thrawn out into hyperspace, and then we never saw him again.
Right.
It was a cool shout out to Rebels, and I know obviously Dave Filoni, I mean, there's a big reason why, but it just that scene meant, like, I'm a huge Rebels fan, coming from the original trilogy. Rebels is one of my favorite, and it just that scene really just kind of like got me even more excited for the Ahsoka series. So I don't know about you guys, but that's really how I kind of went from that scene.
Oh yeah, it's an obvious callback, I think, to Ezra, with his creatures, especially the in season 1, when the creatures that are in the dark that are attacking them, and he calls out the big mama one to take out the Inquisitor. So yeah, like that. Now, is that like a dark side force power? I mean, Anakin used it, Rey used it. They both are definitely, they've skewed dark side a little bit in their powers. The Anakin, obviously, of course, but so yeah, it's interesting, that force power, that force ability to control animals like that. It's
And one thing I think will be interesting too is, because I thought it was a good comment that Luke had made, I think it was the episode prior, kind of alluded to, I'm not necessarily teaching him anything new, I'm just unlocking or helping him remember what he already knew. Because that was always kind of an interesting thing, was we saw Grogu do that healing with Mando, holding, force holding the Mudhorn, and then we saw the fire thing, but it was real sparse. A couple of things in season 1. In season 2, there really wasn't a lot of force usage by Grogu outside of almost kind of for comedic effect, like, taking the little macaroon cookie things from the kid in the school and some small things like that. You never saw him do any real force things. Now it's almost like, okay, now Luke has sort of maybe unlocked some memories. Are we going to see Grogu doing, more force abilities and things as we go forward in season 3?
Well, I think it's tricky because, I mean, I guess it's no different than the Star Wars films, but we have to, I'm sure as writers, they have to make sure that Grogu doesn't just become the escape hatch, or the easy button, right? Anytime there's a problem, be like, get him, Grogu.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
The Ex Machina character.
Yeah. Well, we're in a bind. Well, we'll just literally force wave that.
Yeah. And I agree, like, with Brian. Everybody knows my stance on Grogu. He was cool in there, but when we first got the Mandalorian, I was expecting, and again, this is my fault for expecting, but I was waiting for, what Mandalorians are. They're fighters, they're doing this, which we got some of that, but then we got kind of, the same story that we got in some of our other Star Wars, the other guy finds the kid, like in the Bad Batch. You got Omega, you got Ezra, and things like that. We kind of got in that same kind of groove. So I was kind of hoping we were getting away from that, and we'll talk about that in a little bit more.
See, that's kind of where I go back, because I'm a big proponent of The Last Jedi, which was like telling fans like we can't keep telling the same stories over and over, which I was like, yes, perfect, move Star Wars forward in a new direction. But then which is kind of calls to what you're saying, like, well, we've seen this theme over and over, but then Star Wars is also of the mindset of tradition and patterns and rhythms, and we see these stories over and over. So it's like, like, where's the balance? Like, we want something new, and when we do get it, we're all like, what? This can't. That's too new. That's too crazy. But then if it's like, well, it's too repetitive and derisive, and it's like, but then it's like, well, that's kind of what makes Star Wars works in a way. It's always about family and father son, or bonds, and so it's a delicate balance.
I feel like it's holding a mirror up to the stories, and there's certain points in the stories where you get reflections, the good reflecting the evil reflecting the good, and we get those rhythms and we get those beats. But like you said, if it feels like a rehash, then it becomes unnatural. So like Joe was saying, there's this really weird balance where when it's done correctly, you're making these little mental connections and you're like, oh, wow, that's such a cool thing that, the heroes did this thing that echoes what the villains did. But when it's too on the nose, then we're like, that's BS. And like everyone flips out. So if you're a writer or director, you have to just be like, where is this line at that I'm supposed to not cross?
And that's what made this episode interesting at the end, because we went to this whole setting up Boba Fett is kind of like, now he's becoming like the Don, the good guy, the kind of like the good fellas. It was all that. And then, we cut to the scene where Finnick comes in there and just takes out everybody in like 2 seconds. And then we get to the scene where, they're walking through the village, and everyone's giving him offering, and he's saluting everybody, and he realized this isn't him. So to me, that's obviously a setup for another episode, which offers the cut the credits as well at the end. Let's just finish it off there with that. We know Cobb Vanth is sitting there going to have some mods and come back even better than ever. But I mean, I was not expecting, and I'm going to say this now. One of the biggest things I did not like about this series was how it ended. And I don't know about you guys, but kind of like it was like an 80s montage kind of ending where they're all like talking at the table, and they're like, "Oh, you're going to share that melon?" And then it kind of fades away, and the drone goes up.
I thought
you can find them and you can hire them. Maybe you can hire the A team.
Right?
Yeah, that was my. I couldn't get over that. That just really bugged me. I'm like, really? I don't want to hear that little mumbling, and they fade away, and then it was it. I'm like, no.
I thought they should have just freeze framed, and they're all like laughing, like mid laugh, like that's just kind of the camera credits roll. I know what you mean. It was a little cheesy, but it's Star Wars. It's always been cheesy. It's always, it's not. Come on, we're all old dudes here. It's for the next generation. Yeah. It's always about the kids, So it's like, granted, Star Wars does have to service its fan base and its loyal fan base and the longevity of that. But ultimately, the cheesy stuff, we're just going to have to tolerate it. Like the mods on the bikes. It's like all the 25 and up year old fans are probably up in arms, and I think they're kind of goofy, but we don't know what the kids are saying because they're not on computers and on the internet complaining all the time like the rest of us.
All of us.
Well, if you're a 10-year-old, you have no context for the whole mods thing,
right?
And you probably just think, "Oh, that's so cool! They look so awesome!" And hey, is that one guy in Doctor Who? Yeah, I want to know more about him. Like that kind of thing,
right?
But it almost seemed like they're setting up too to like allow Boba and his gang to kind of go off world, and so there could be like lots of really amazing adventures if they become guns for hire, even if it's for good or whatever, but like it has possibilities for sure.
Well,
that's one thing I've been thinking about is, because coming into Book of Boba Fett, my expectation really was like, okay, we'll probably be on Tatooine a little bit, and then Boba Fett and Finn go off world, and all sorts of things are going to happen. I never expected them to basically stay in Mos Espa in Jabba's palace for like the entire series. But I think, Brian, like you mentioned, now they're sort of setting up like, man, maybe Cobb, Vanth, and some of the mods can stay back and sort of marshal or take care of Mos Espa. Now that frees up Boba Fett to then, maybe help out Mandalorian or the Mandalorian in season 3, or show up and have other adventures and do things outside of being, stuck, doing the day-to-day operations in Mos Espa.
Well, I mean, the biggest thing that we got to take away is Mando has the Darksaber. I mean, he's technically the rightful ruler of Mandalore. And so, but now we have, he was kicked out of his little clan because they took off his helmet. Bo-Katan's not too happy with him right now, so I don't see him really joining back up with them. So, I mean, could we see, him and Fett rebuild Mandalore? I mean, we've got that. I mean, we obviously know that Fett's not going to stay there. We know Cobb Vanth is getting set up for that, obviously. I mean, just by what we saw there. But, I mean, that could be part of our Mandalorian season 3 right there. I mean, that's kind of what the Mandalorian, I think I know I wanted, was to see the kind of like, the Mandalorians kind of how we had them in the Clone Wars and stuff like that. But I don't know. I just really think we got to see, and plus we got Sabine out there still. We got, there's a reason why we keep seeing these few Mandalorians. I think something's going to happen soon that we're going to be like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've only had like really the 2 seasons of Mandalorian and then a little side story of Boba Fett. So, and there's only been like 7 to 8 episodes per season. So
yeah,
they're definitely building up to a bigger story. And the first few seasons of any brand new show is always going to be, a lot of setup. And it's usually, I think I like Star Trek The Next Generation, like it didn't really get good until the end of season 3, really. Some shows just take a little time to kind of really get the ball rolling and to build up to those larger story arcs and stuff. So I think by season 3 of Mando, we will see, I mean, absolutely the Darksaber is going to be a big part of it. I'm pretty sure we're getting Bo-Katan back, and we know we have Sabine in the Ahsoka series, so they're definitely building towards a bigger storyline, possibly with Thrawn and also the Mandalorian, the Mandalore storyline. So
and I made this comment before talking about this is Disney / Lucas have a perfect blueprint for this type of thing in the MCU, to where you can introduce characters, you can have crossovers, you can keep building them all up for, a Thanos, an Avengers style, big bad thing at the end, which could be Thrawn. It could be Thrawn working with somebody else. So, I mean, to your point, Joe, I think they're taking their time, introducing the characters, building the backstory, the character development, which I appreciate. I'd much prefer that as opposed to, hey, let's try to just cram everything into a couple episodes and, get right to it. It's like, let's take our time. Let's show the fans that there's more to than just the action sequences or getting right to it. We can introduce all these people.
I think they tried this this was their plan, because at the end of Solo, and we got the Darth Maul reveal, but then Solo didn't necessarily translate. I think there was an oversaturation. Plus, with the backlash with Last Jedi, there was a weird time, so they had to step back, because we at one point we were going to get a new Star Wars movie every year, and then that changed after Solo, right? So then everything shifted to streaming. So they didn't abandon that plan of Darth Maul, Crimson Dawn, Kira. I think we are going to get pieces of that in Kenobi. We'll get pieces of that, maybe even in Andor to a degree. And they're definitely taking that Marvel template. I think they just kind of had to shift gears a little bit to Disney.
It's interesting, like how you said with Andor and everything, because I mean, we got a lot coming at us, and one of the things that Travis is starting to learn with the writing world is like, I hate spoilers bigger than anything, and there's stuff that I can't avoid seeing, because it comes across and it's like, hey, can we write about this, blah blah blah. But I think it's interesting because we got Ahsoka coming up, and then I forgot the actor's name from Andor made a comment that how they're going to be filming season 2 already, which I thought was kind of interesting. How we haven't even seen the first season yet, and they're already building for season 2.
Yeah, he probably wasn't supposed to let that slip, but
job security.
We've got we got so much coming at us that it's just been, as a Star Wars fan, I know all of us have been fans for a long time, and we've never had this before. So not only are we just getting all this great content, our brains are trying to put it together. And I think that's where a lot of fans kind of forgot a little bit, is use your imagination, have fun with it, and enjoy it, kind of like at Celebration.
We're kind of spoiled because we live in this instant gratification kind of culture now, where we want answers right away. We want stuff streamed to us immediately. We used to have to wait 3 years between Star Wars movies when we were kids, and now it's a year, right. 2 years maybe at the most. And
we just got to play with the toys while we waited for the next movie to come out and be like,
well, I kind of like the fact, and this might maybe sound kind of old fashioned, but I like it better than with the Netflix theory of binging everything at once. I kind of like that anticipation of waiting. I had a lot of people laugh at me for some reason during the Book of Boba Fett. I always woke up 15 minutes before the show started without an alarm. Like my body was just like, okay, it's Boba Fett time. So we had that excitement. We have that excitement again that we haven't had in a long time, which I really enjoy. And speaking of excitement, there's a reason why, everybody, I have these two awesome guests on here tonight with us. Celebration is right around the corner, which is it's hard to believe, because after being canceled, then moving to August, and now back to May, Celebration is coming up pretty soon. So what's really cool about this is they can't divulge what they are doing for Celebration, but both these artists have been selected for a Celebration piece this year. So congratulations. That's awesome news.
Thank you.
For you all familiar with Brian and Joe's work, they do some amazing pieces. So first of all, I'll say again, congratulations on that. So Brian, I'm going to start with you because we got some of your artwork up here on first with the stream here. Tell us, what is it that you, as a Star Wars fan, obviously, you got to be selective of what you want, but what goes into your thought process when you're putting together a piece for Celebration, or putting together a piece, to give the Star Wars fans?
Well, there's two main components, and one is I'm always looking for what I call the stories between the stories. So this one that you have on the screen is a perfect example. So we see Boba Fett ship fly away, right? But then we don't see what happens after, or that sort of thing, right? So I'm always looking to continue something that we know and we maybe imagined how it happened, and then add to. And then the second component is that I'm really inspired by like the past and vintage style artwork and old travel posters and propaganda art and stuff like that. So I'm always trying to bring that sort of like vintage, old school aesthetic into my work. And when those two streams cross just right, that's kind of where the magic happens. And so like this with the travel tags example, we get this like vintage travel tag, but then also it tells a story of like the original trilogy all the way through until the Death Star explodes at the end of Return of the Jedi. So that combination of some visual storytelling, but not just a scene that you've already seen or an image that you've already seen, but some little twist or take on that, or something that maybe happened off, just off camera, this happened, or between the two movies, this happened, that kind of thing is what I'm always looking for. That's what excites me. And I know if I'm excited by it, then hopefully someone at Lucasfilm is, or the fans are. And that tends to be the case. When I'm doing like a concept for Star Wars Celebration, I'll usually come up with a few ideas. And more often than not, I have like a very safe idea, that I know everyone would love, and, everyone would be happy with it. And then I have this like crazy like idea that's just out in left field. And more often than not, the fine people at Lucasfilm write back and they're like, yeah, this one thing, that's great, kid, but this crazy thing, like, can you take the ball and run with that? And I always know it's too crazy, no one's gonna like it. And they're like, no, it's good. And then normally, when it comes out, the fans go crazy for it. And so I like taking that risk. And it can be really scary sometimes. I mean, in the travel tags, there's no characters and no ships on that artwork at all. And I was petrified. I was like, nobody's gonna want this. I'm the only one that gets this joke. And then luckily, like, people got it and people were excited about it. And so, knock on wood, hopefully that's the way it usually is, but not always, because I do take those crazy risks. And sometimes, you can, as an artist, some are winners and some are less winners.
Yeah, I actually know the travel tags was actually the first piece I've ever seen from you. And
thank you.
I loved it. It was different. It was something that not everybody had. And you kind of talk about, that no characters, but yet you knew what everything was. So I thought that was pretty awesome. And then Joe, we'll get kind of the same question for you, with your thought process. And obviously, you got some great pieces here, and we're going to pop them right up on the screen here, maybe if I hit the right button. So obviously, the Book of Boba Fett, you just had a piece recently that you shared with everybody. And there we go. Sorry if our heads are at the bottom there, everybody, but you guys kind of get the picture there. So kind of take us through your process, Joe, what, when you're putting together a piece to present.
I mean, my stuff tends to be like, it kind of bounces around stylistically. It could either be kind of more high concept, kind of like how what Brian's doing with some of his propaganda or travel posters, or it can be a little more literal, more kind of pinup or movie poster style, I would say, which movie poster artists like obviously Drew Struzan and lots of comic book artists who've done amazing comic book covers. Those tend to be the artists I gravitate towards too, as inspiration and influence in my work. So it just, I like to do, also like Brian, I like to do some sort, expanded universe style illustrations, which I've done for some of my celebration prints that kind of tell you the rest of the story off screen, or maybe in between scenes we see something like with Boba Fett and Slave Leia. These ones here are definitely, they're more very current, recent illustrations I've done for Lucasfilm, and they're, just more movie poster style, but also there's some Art Deco or Art Nouveau influences as well in some of them, and there's also some Drew Struzan or some other kind of influences with other illustration styles. So I guess
Joe's being really modest because Joe is like a master of composition. And, if you look at the artwork, it takes a lot of creativity and a lot of thoughtfulness to juxtapose those elements, the characters and the ships and the different the Art Deco elements, to make a beautiful composition that you want to hang in your home. So it's not just, Joe is amazing at like the likenesses and the characters, but beyond that, it's his composition that just ties it all together and makes it so strong that people want to, collect his artwork time and time and time again, for sure.
Oh, thanks, Brian. You're making me all emotional. Thank you, man. Yeah, and I'm just as influenced by Brian's stuff because his sense of design and color is so incredible. I'm always looking at his stuff to get ideas of how, especially when he incorporates text into his illustrations and the travel posters or any of his graphic design work. He constantly impresses me every time he does a new piece, where I'm just like, whoa, like I didn't, like this. Some of his ideas are just so high concept and so unique. So, I think it's influences like that, but also getting influences from, like I said, like cinematic influences. Like I want to do a movie poster, but at the same time, I want to see how far I can push the graphic design as well. So if I can incorporate that Art Nouveau or Art Deco, or if I can incorporate just graphic elements with my fully painted technique, and just I don't know, just always trying to push styles and mesh styles and try new things, but still keep it familiar in the Star Wars language, I guess.
We got a couple of comments here. Mara has this is all great artwork. Greg here, I love that one. It's awesome, which I don't know which one, but they're all awesome. That's why we picked them to put them on there. And then I have a lot of Joe's work. Plus, he's also from Ohio, so which I definitely go Bucks. But yeah, there's obviously, when we mention your two names in the Star Wars community, one of the things that always comes up is celebration. You guys artwork is known there, and plus, like I said, you two have pieces approved. Now, again, I know that you can't say what they are, and I know, Joe, I talked to you a little bit about this, but if you guys want to share, anything that you can about it. This is your time to kind of get people to get pretty excited for when that announcement finally comes out. Joe, I'll let you start.
I'll let Brian start. I want to hear how he words this carefully.
Put me in the hot seat, huh? I will just say, imagine your perfect date night in a galaxy far, far away. That's all I'll say.
It's pretty cool. What can I say about Brian? Because I've seen the concept, and I won't give it away, but it's definitely it's a great, unique concept that, and that's I think you put it perfectly. Once you see it, you'll be like, oh, that totally makes sense. I think if I can say anything about mine, I mean, I can't really beat around the bush. I won't describe it, but I'll just say, if you want to make Solo 2 happen, then maybe buy my print. I would say that would be a good indicator to Lucasfilm to be like, maybe we should think about Solo 2. But yeah, that'll give you a taste of the theme of my print.
And I'll add to that, always let the Wookiee win.
That's absolutely right.
So when working with Lucasfilm, so how much time, like when you guys submit something, like, and this is probably a question a lot of people have, like, how much stuff do they make you guys change? Like, you put something in there and maybe it was like too close to home of what may be happening. How often do they make you say, hey, we like this, but we need you to change this?
Pretty recently it happened. I'll let Brian go on that too.
I'll say it tends to be hot or cold. I mean, I think for me, at least as an artist, sometimes you get that spark, that idea, and you sort of like know it's the one. And for me, at least, it like flows out. It just comes easily. The illustration happens. It all kind of comes together, and everything just falls into place. And you have this like really strong feeling about it. And those tend to just like sail right through approvals, no comments, no anything. It's the ones where there's a struggle, where you're struggling with the ship or a character or whatever it is. It just doesn't feel 100% on. It seems like for some reason there's some subliminal thing that's when, someone else picks on it a little bit and they're like, okay, that's all right. But what if we change this character to this? And what if we change this? And by the time you're done with all the changes, it's like a whole different thing. I mean, actually, I can't say what, but there was like one illustration that literally started as an illustration of a character in one film. And by the time it was done, it was a different character from a different film, because it just, those conversations just kind of have a way of, well, let's pull this character out and put that character in. And then, oh, but if we do that, it needs to be this movie instead of that movie. You kind of get the end, you're like, well, it got done and it's made, but it's not really what we had in mind. And so, it definitely happens, but I feel like, Joe, I'm going to blank on the name. Star Wars author, what's her name?
Christy Golden.
Crap, she moved to New Mexico. Well, regardless, it's her words. I can't take credit for it, but the way she described it was, Lucasfilm is like when you see little kids go to a bowling alley and they put those bumpers in the gutters. Like that's what Lucasfilm is for creatives. It's like they're not trying to stop us from being creative. They're just trying to keep us from throwing a gutter ball, right? Yeah. And that's really the truth. We can get in our own heads and be like, I want to do this thing. It's going to be so cool. And sometimes they're like, yeah, maybe just move a little bit to the left, or maybe just move a little bit to the right. We're going to help you try to get that strike. And you don't realize at the time because you're in the middle of it. But then, when time passes, you take a step back. You're like, oh, yeah, they were so right. I'm glad they helped guide me towards the target.
I think that's a great analogy for how the story group works with all the live action and animation stuff, or even publishing, or with us, with our artwork. That's really their philosophy for not just us artists, but for the writers and the filmmakers and the directors. And, they'll let them be as creative as possible, but be like, well, that's maybe a little too far, or maybe think about using this character instead of that character, which goes back to what Brian was saying about some of his artwork. So it's the same attitude across all the platforms with Lucasfilm.
Yeah,
and I guess Delilah Dawson is the artist or the author I was thinking of. I just to make sure to give her credit because those were her words.
And I guess as me as a outsider, a fan, I guess that's great to kind of hear, directly kind of from people closer to the inside that, Lucasfilm does allow you guys to still kind of push the envelope occasionally and kind of still foster that creative spirit and atmosphere. Because I get to be really easy for them to come down, sort of iron fisted and be like, nope, here's how we're doing it. This is the way we want it, and really kind of stifle that. But I think seeing how they still promote that creative spirit, both on the live action, the story writing side, whether it's books, comics, the artwork, I guess it's promising to see that that's what's occurring. I guess, lends itself to, great future things to come.
Yeah. I mean, at least for speaking me personally, and this is also to Brian, I mean, they let us kind of pitch whatever crazy ideas we have, and they're very open to them. And for like, even some of those poster illustrations of mine that you showed, like, those were totally my ideas that I pitched to my publisher, who then was like, yeah, we like this idea. And then, yeah, just do all 3, do all 4. And then I do them. And then most of the time they sail through, but there might be something like recently I had to change one version of a character to another version of a character because they didn't want to see these 2 specific versions of the characters in the same art. So I had to change one of the characters to make, publishing and licensing happy. So yeah, I mean, there is stuff like that happens, but.
So Brian and Joe, and we'll put this in the comment links as well, but where can people find your work at?
Brian.
Okay. So yeah, no, you, all my stuff is on Octopolis, and I won't spell it. I know you guys will put it in the chat, but
it's on the screen.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, it's under your name right there, right?
Yeah, under my name. So octopolis.com is where you can find my art, and then my Instagram and all my social media is the same. So everything I do for Star Wars and beyond.
Yeah. Brian and I have actually done a lot of work outside of Star Wars, in comic books specifically, even. So be sure.
G.I. Joe, X-Files, all kinds of fun stuff.
We go way back. We've worked on so many comics together, as well as Star Wars art as well. But you can find my stuff. Just it's my name, joecorroney.com, and then all my social media is there, which you can decide to follow whatever you like. And then I keep most of it pretty up to date. I'm working on new Star Wars art right now, and so, a Marvel thing and something for Stranger Things for the new season. So I've got little things happening, and then I've got a lot of shows planned for this year as well, beyond Celebration, which we'll both be at Celebration in May. So definitely find our booths there, and we'll beam out all that information as well. Especially, I think they're revealing our exclusive prints for the event in early May, so about 3 weeks or so before the event, maybe. So that'll be the time to keep your eyes peeled to see our new artwork for Star Wars Celebration.
Yep, and also for people who follow us at the Midwest Star Wars Fanatics, we'll also keep that posted. If you go to the announcements, we have our conventions, and we try to put the artists and the actors that are Star Wars involved that will be there as well, so you'll be able to find where they're touring at as well. So again, I want to thank you guys tonight. We had an awesome night tonight, talking book. I mean, we probably could have took this show another 2 hours, talking about all the stuff and everything coming up. Also, everybody out there is watching. You can follow me at Star Wars Nerd 574. My co-host Travis here at the Indiana Salon. You can also see our work at the #show.com. Again, we want to thank our sponsor, TRG Toys and Collectibles. Some great stuff out there as well. And before we end everything, again, I want to just remind everybody we got some great events coming up. We do have our silent auction, which will be in May, where all proceeds will go to Mission 22. We did this last year. It was a great success. I will hopefully be announcing our charity glass pretty soon, which I'm very excited about. I can't give anything away yet. Me and the artist still have to talk about that. And then on top of that, we will have again the silent auction on May 4th. And then we're going to be also toys. We'll be doing a toy drive for Ronald McDonald House, Christmas in July. to raise toys to give them so that the kids at the Ronald McDonald House can have toys during Christmas time in December. So it's great being a part of such a great group and some awesome artists that come on tonight and sit and just chat Star Wars with us. So before we end the night, I'm going to ask you all one question. What series are you the most excited for that's coming up this year? Brian, we'll start with you.
Oh man. Well, you threw in this year, and I don't. Is Obi-Wan actually going to come out this year? That's the bigger question. But
yeah, no, it is May. Yeah.
May 25th.
Yeah, they just announced it the other day. Yeah.
I think that's going to come out like the day before Celebration, right?
Yep.
Is that how they're going to do it? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that has to be my answer. I mean, there's so much cool stuff coming, but for right now, that's just right around the corner. So I'm just dying to see it.
I'm kind of with Brian on that one because it's the return of Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi, which is obviously the pinnacle of the prequels. But we're also getting Hayden Christensen back as Anakin Skywalker and Darth Vader. So on top of, rumors of Inquisitors and I mean, come on, like Kenobi.
There's so much potential there.
Yeah. So it's probably Kenobi for me too for this year. Yeah, I would say Kenobi.
Yeah, I guess we've already had 2 Kenobi answers. I guess I will go a different direction just to talk about something else because I am excited about the Kenobi series. For me, though, I think it might be Andor. I know second season's coming, so I already have more to look forward to. No, but because I've always been a really big fan of the non-Jedi stories to kind of see, okay, what are the average everyday people doing out there to survive in the age of the rise of the Empire and things. So I think it'd be really neat to see sort of that more down to earth, gritty, maybe almost kind of spy espionage sort of series with Andor and kind of a different look, almost at a ground level that we haven't seen. We've seen the war with the rebels and the Empire from that grand perspective with the Skywalkers and the Emperor and Vader and everything, but Rogue One tapped into it a little bit, so I think kind of getting more into that will be a nice perspective to see.
Oh yeah, I'm all for more Diego Luna as
of course, I'm gonna go another direction. Obviously, I got to go with Ahsoka. Just with my love of Star Wars Rebels.
Is that this year?
I'm so excited about. I want to know what's up with Thrawn. I want to know what's up with Ezra. Just that Rebels grew on me. That was my first animated, like I watched some of the Clone Wars, but Rebels is the one that really grew on me. And then I got into Clone Wars more after I got into Rebels more. So I think the Ahsoka series is what I'm most excited for. Because as much as I love the Obi-Wan series, I mean, we've had so much Obi-Wan stories, and throughout the Clone Wars and everything else, I'm anxious to see where this Ahsoka is going to go because my big theory is, something sooner or later. I mean, we obviously know that something happened to Ahsoka because we heard her in The Rise of Skywalker, at the end. Now, is she with Force Ghost then when she was talking? Is she still alive? I don't know. But, we got some answers that we need. We need some answers, Dave Filoni. So that's where I'm going on there.
Calling long distance.
But. Exactly. But again, everybody, thank you so much. Had a great time tonight. Again, we'll be back again next week. Then we'll probably be going back to our every 2 weeks until our next series comes out in May, which is Obi-Wan. But again, I had a great time. Remember, check out Brian and Joe's work. You guys will not be disappointed. Until then, may the Force be with you, and we will see you all next week.